get this party started.
All right, bye.
All right, number one, who wants to ask the first one? Gary.
One of six. So, typically what happens for me is I'll get a buyer call. It'll be 8 o'clock at night and they'll say, I got 5 homes I want to see tomorrow. And sometimes I have worked with them, sometimes I haven't. So I realize buyer agency will be part of that notation or documentation we'll need to do. My question was, like, if there's 5 homes to look at tomorrow, if I text the agents that we're gonna look at their homes, see if we get permission, and they say, and we ask them the question about how much they're paying for commission,
If any.
if any.
Yeah.
And they send back, whatever the number is, and then I go show those homes with a text confirmation and a buyer's agency sign. Is that okay? Is that a first step?
That is okay. That is okay if you're, okay. That is okay. If you're that, in that kind of a time crunch.
Right.
It's probably better and it's not required, but it's just a better practice, I think, to get the cooperation between brokers agreement signed.
Okay.
Now I'm going to make it so that all agents can sign their own cooperation between brokers instead of having to send it to me.
Okay.
I might have to change some of the guidelines in our procedures and guidelines manual, giving authority to every agent to go ahead and sign the buyer cooperation agreement on my behalf.
Okay.
So that way you don't have to give it to me right away to get it signed, because obviously I cannot sit there and watch my computer all day or half the night
Right.
to get things signed.
Right. And that was my second question, is that cooperation agreement is where we would go to as a first step with these buyers when we're looking at
With agents. Cooperation between brokers is with other agents.
other agents.
Okay, yes. Now you've told me that you're co-broking X amount on 123 Main Street.
Yes.
So I'll go ahead and send you a cooperation agreement, and that agreement is signed between both of you. As we all know, it's way better to get things in writing as quickly as possible,
Mhm.
because sometimes our memory aren't so good, and or we may misunderstand, and or saves any controversy down the line. When the offer comes in and you've got the compensation on there, and they went, well, I don't remember telling you that. I thought I told you that. It will save a whole bunch of headaches down the road.
Okay.
To try and get as much in writing ahead of time as possible. Okay?
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
So the 2 agreements at the back, the cooperation and the compensation, what's the difference between those 2?
The cooperation agreement between brokers is just exactly that. It's a cooperation agreement between brokers.
Okay.
In the past, we've always used those if we were showing a listing or someone outside of our MLS, or we were showing a listing outside of our MLS. We always had to get a cooperation agreement between the brokerages,
Okay.
meaning that brokerage agrees to pay our brokerage or vice versa X amount if they sell the property, because they were not a part of the MLS. And the MLS was structured to offer cooperation with information and compensation. Well, the compensation part of that is going away. All there is cooperation with information. Hence, the cooperation agreement between brokers is now necessary, so we have it in writing. And again, it's not something that's required,
Right.
but I think it's best practice, and our brokerage, I'm not going to require it right now. If we start running into a whole bunch of problems because people aren't doing it, and then later on down the line, there's a whole bunch of problems with, well, I don't think I said that, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to start requiring it as part of the package. So, compensation agreement. That is a document you will always attach to your offer. And that is going to set out exactly what you expect to get paid and how you expect to get paid.
Makes sense.
Okay? If you've had a conversation with the other agent and they said, we're paying X amount co-broker compensation on 123 Main Street. Okay, so in this offer, if that X amount covers your buyer agency agreement or buyer authorization agreement, then you're good. Then you're going to just use number one or A1, listing broker compensation to cooperating broker one. And you're going to fill in those blanks and check the box, fill in the blank.
So, sorry, A1 is what?
Listing broker compensation to cooperating broker. The listing broker will pay a fee in the amount of purchase price to cooperating broker at and only upon closing.
Okay.
So if that fee that they've already offered to cooperate with covers your fee and your agreement with the buyer, you're good to go. If it does not cover it, then you may have to check number two also and say, hey, listing broker compensation to cooperating broker is X. I need seller to pay Y to make me whole with my buyer agreement.
So there's a chance it would be both.
Yeah. Or if you call and say, and the cooperating broker or the listing broker says, we're not paying any fee to a buyer broker. Okay. You're going to go back and have the conversation with your buyer. Hey, Mr. Buyer, they're not paying any fee.
Right.
Therefore, you may be responsible for whatever amount we have in our agreement. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Buyer says, well, you know what? I want to take my chances. I want to go ahead and rent that house. And if we love it and make an offer, we can ask the seller to pay. So we do that.
So this would be good.
They love it. They want to buy it. They want to buy the house. They make an offer on it. In that case, we would then use the compensation agreement A2
Sellers.
and ask the seller to pay that fee. Now, does the seller have to agree to? No, they do not. But this compensation agreement, as I said, will be required on all offers. And you cannot be more transparent than everybody. Brokers, agents, and buyer and seller all sign this agreement. It can't get any more transparent. So you'll always use this one with an offer.
Is it wrong to say, like, typically what we're used to, if we have already the broker said that the seller's going to pay X amount, I'm just a little unclear between 1 and 2. Like, I understand what
One is there is a cooperation offer.
Okay.
2 is there's no cooperation offered, and we're asking the seller to pay X.
I get it. Thanks.
1 is they're not they don't have a buyer broker compensation.
Okay.
Okay? That's the difference. But in some cases you may use both.
Hey, Deb,
Yes.
it's Ricky. On to that, if the seller is offering a different amount than what is on your buyer's agency, can you choose just to take that amount?
If the seller is offering less, yes. If the seller
Okay.
is offering more, no. You cannot take more than what's on your agreement. Now, of course, commissions are always negotiable. And we can go back to the buyer and say, hey, in this case, the seller is offering X amount over what our agreement is for. Do you have a problem with me collecting that?
Okay, and then you would just do an amendment to the agency?
You could just do an amendment to the agency you have. And you can do it just by crossing out. If it ends up being that one, you can do that by just crossing out that amount and you and the buyer initial that. You are
Okay.
both parties to that agreement. Now,
Okay.
if the buyer comes up with, well, if it's extra money, why don't I get that? Well, because in the state of Missouri, that's called inducement and that's illegal.
Right.
Okay?
I also had a question. You and I talked not too long ago about the retainer fee. Did you ever come up with a solution to that?
I have not gotten an answer for that yet. The retainer fee, which used to be the flat fee. Now they've changed the name of it to a retainer fee in our listing agreement or in our listing agreements, buyer agreement and listing agreement, both I think. Look. Yeah, that retainer, and I'm sorry, I forgot what your question was. Like, what do we do with that money?
So the question was, number one, who holds the money? And you said the broker, it's written out to you. Then who's going to manage that? Because you can also mark that fee can be deducted from the compensation. But
Right.
if it's deducted from the compensation the seller pays you, then who gets the difference?
Right. Yes.
And then who's going to manage that?
Retainer fee? You're going to look at a retainer fee as whether we close or not, this is what it's going to cost you. It's almost really, really close to the other compensation that we call marketing or admin.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Retainer fee is here's what it's going to cost you to hire me. It's not refundable.
I feel like that would have been better suited for a non-exclusive agreement than an exclusive agreement.
Well, you know what? They didn't ask me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We just have to work with what we got. So the retainer fee, just like you pay the attorney. Okay, I'm charging you $1,000. That's my retainer fee. I use that as $250 an hour. You can also say, hey, I'm going to charge you $500. That's going to be for X amount of trips to look at houses, whatever. And yes, if you end up buying a home from me, I can deduct that. But a retainer fee is non-refundable. And if they don't buy anything, you just keep it.
Yeah.
You go towards anything.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm. But
I understand what you're saying about, okay, so the seller says, your agreement is for X. And the seller's paying X. So it's equal. But now we have a $500 retainer fee. And that's a retainer fee. Does it get credited because it's over and above? No.
okay.
Credited if what the seller is paying isn't quite up to what our X is with them, yes.
Okay. And then the broker holds that for the whole time of the transaction, right?
Yeah, I say it's got to be the broker because you can't get a check made out to you, so it's got to be the broker.
Okay.
I mean, no, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Next. That's all the questions?
I'm curious if this just came about the other day, where Inman came out and said that he John said that they're not going to do broker compensation. Have you read anything about all that?
Nice.
Actually, you don't have.
Number one, I don't think they can set a policy that they're not going to do broker-to-broker cooperation agreements.
They published a new listing agreement.
I can't hear you.
They published a new listing agreement that says the vice president said that the document was updated because we want to make sure our agents are best protected. She added that we're not going to do broker-to-broker compensation. We're not going to do predetermined compensation. She continued adding that instead EXP listing agents will provide their clients with a minimum options.
Okay, so they could still be doing a buyer broker compensation or cooperation of compensation. I
It just
don't
seems
know.
like a contradiction.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't make any sense. And they have to give the seller that option. Right. Can they recommend to their sellers or encourage their sellers not to pay any? Well, EXP have a good time in this market. Let's see how long you last.
I am. That's like that.
Again, this whole all of these conversations are going to be all in how you're presenting. This does not have to be a big issue. Does not have to be a big problem. Again, Mr. Seller, when I'm taking your listing, you want your buyer pool this big or this big? There's a difference. Do you want to sell the house or do you just want to throw it on the market? Well, then it's going to cost you $1,000 for me to do that, and we'll see what happens. You know,
We had this conversation last week. It sure seems like business sell by owners are going to feel like now they can sell their house for zero, which we know.
and good luck with that.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of buyers wanting to tackle this without representation. Okay. And of course, you're going to have those sellers and those buyers that know way more than any of us do. Well, good luck. And please don't call me in 6 months when everything has gone down the tubes for you. Sure, it's going to be a pain at first. But again, it's how we educate our sellers and our buyers. I was just in this morning printing out all the different types of agreements that I'm going to be carrying in my car, along with the agency disclosures for Arkansas and for Missouri. So,
Okay, Cassandra has a thing on here.
but
Cassandra has a message.
Oh.
Tell me when you need me to move down.
it sounds like we do not have to do a cooperation because the buyer's agent will submit the compensation. No, you're never required to do the cooperation agreement. I am just saying that, as we all know, it's better to have everything black and white in writing so we're all on the same page up front as early as possible. Again, I'm not going to require that cooperation between brokers agreement be part of your sale package at this time. If it turns out that we're having a lot of problems with cooperation and the compensation and a lot of controversy closer to closing on these deals, then yes, it will be required. That answer your question? You're welcome.
Rob,
I got here late. You probably already covered it. But to go along with that. When I get a new listing, I could add a cooperative agreement signed by you already.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
that part. I'm going to change the P&G. I'm going to have to make a change, and I've got it written out. I just haven't put it in yet. I'm going to change our policies and guidelines procedures where I'm going to be giving each agent permission to sign a cooperation agreement between brokers on my behalf. So I will not have to sign that agreement. So yes, you can take one out, except usually the showing company will send you that agreement because they're the ones asking for cooperation.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I don't see any reason for you to make one out. Just when you get it, on your listing that you're offering cooperation for, you'll be able to sign it and not have to wait on me to get to it. Because there's no way
That's good.
I can do all these. There's just not.
Yeah.
There's no way I can get on. There's not. So you'll be able to sign those.
Probably the broker on the other side is the same one too, right?
I don't know, whatever their policy is.
Yeah.
You know, each broker can set their own policies. And always in the past, it's that the designated broker or DR had to sign those agreements. And I'm going to change the policy to say I'm authorizing agents to sign on my behalf of those agreements.
So when we sign, would it be our name and your name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll have all authorizations, just like when you sign a listing or a sales contract, you are actually signing on the broker's behalf. But it's the brokerage that owns it all. So I'm just changing this from cooperation agreement, does not have to bear the VR signature. Right?
Yeah.
Which will make it a whole lot.
What about buyer's agency?
No, but I still have to sign as designated for that. As a designated. I'll still do those and all doing what we have done. You know, no date stamp. Just, fail. And,
This starts on the 17th.
no, it's going to start Monday, July 29th. The forms are supposed to be out July 29th. The National Association of Realtors deadline is August 17th. But Somo, Tri-Lakes Board, we moved all that up to the 1st. So you should be able to access the documents on July 29th. I believe. Here's the plan. See? That means they'll be working on it over the weekend. Those documents will be available on zip forms and all that. Pardon me? Those documents will be available on zip forms. Yep, all the libraries should be updated. Anybody else?
Where are we with, I thought, like on the name tape, I mean, the website, where we would possibly put the over post the meeting.
Well, that is a PWRI 10 deal. Now, oh, I forgot to check that. I've been doing a little research. I've gone in and changed some wording on my listings. You know how you used to go into the KWLS unchecked list tab, go in and edit your listing and then check list tab again. I haven't checked back since I did it yesterday or the day before. Anyway, I need to check back and see how that populated to other sites. Now on our sites, we can have it. If it populates, see, I think it's okay to populate to realtor.com, to Zillow, to whatever, because it's our listing. It just can't look like it came from the MLS. Hence some of the problem with KWLS, because it will populate, and on our KWLS it says information populated per Tomo MLS or something like that. There's a little disclaimer on the bottom. That would have to go away. So I'm sure they're working on something. We're not going to have it real soon.
So what did you just test?
I just changed some wording on one of my listings to see how it went. I haven't looked at it today yet.
Nothing to do with this.
No,
Okay.
no, not yet. Now, you can offer a buyer broker compensation or courtesy or whatever you want to call it through social media. Make sure it's on your business page. Also, you can, as I understand, you can put in the amount you're offering. I've asked, I don't know how many different people in the last 2 days. I don't see anything where it says you can, but I don't see anything where it says you can't. The yard signs, if you wanted to put buyer broker compensation, that's all I put. I would not put an amount because people are going to want to test it and they're going to go, okay, well, we'll give 2.5 or we'll give 6.5 or we'll give 10.5, whatever that number is. I'm just going to do yard signs. I'm actually going to do yard signs and I'm going to put a rider on my for sale sign saying buyer brokerage compensation offer. That's all.
We're also working on a link to our website.
That's what, yeah, we were just talking about that.
Okay.
That's okay. No, go ahead. Maybe you have more update than I do. Go ahead.
I downloaded all the listings yesterday. And now I'm going through the MLS to verify I was really surprised actually, as you start going through them, they're not all 3%. It was like, oh, So I'm going through all 584 listings to pull out the buyer's compensation to put in the spreadsheet. And we're gonna maintain it. Hopefully on a daily basis. I will say that I won't be able to go on the MLS and see what your compensation is. So it's imperative that you either let us know somehow, some way, or you get your paperwork in for a listing as quickly as possible.
Which is what we're supposed to do anyway.
Yeah. So that we can go find what your buyer compensation is and put it on the spreadsheet. So, we're gonna have a, I think I'm gonna call it a BAC, on our actual Keller Williams Tri-Lakes website. And the agents will be able to click on there. Anybody will be able to click on there and go find the MLS number and the address and see what the compensation is.
So we'll be able to put that in either in March, so they can go to that.
So what?
Like how do people know to go to the KW site to check out KW?
Well, it's gonna be up to all you to promote that. Hey, we're.
But I think it's okay to promote them.
It's on our website if you'd like to go look at that. Now, some agents are gonna say, no, I've already called them, tell them about it now.
Yeah.
And then some agents will keep it in under their hat for in the future.
Right.
Okay, now we know we can go there and look.
So we can just say it, you can't. put it in there. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm trying to, we're trying to go in and make it as easy as possible on you guys. And, if they're showing more than, your listing and they're showing Gary's listing and they're showing Rob's listing, it's one stop. They can go in there and find all of them.
It'd be good for us to say that whenever we're in college, for
Yeah.
any KW showings,
Yeah. So
you can check that.
use the verbiage when they call you to say, what's the compensation? Hey, it's listed on our website. Go to, www.mymc896kw.com, I think is what it's called. I'll get the website for you guys.
And it might, 96.kw?
Yeah, I think it is kw.com.
And then
So we're trying to do that to alleviate you guys receiving all these phone calls. So.
that's replaying that every time.
But I will ask that if you put a listing on, you need to notify one of us that you've done it and what the buyer's compensation is, so that we can update it and put it on the spreadsheet. Because we will have no way of knowing from the MLS what it is. I'll listen now.
Thank you, Monica.
So with the existing listings that are in place, the 29th starts the new program. When going to the local listing online, you're not going to see anything down there related to compensation.
All those deals are gonna be gone.
Okay, and do we need to do anything with our existing listings paperwork wise different?
You don't really need to do anything paperwork wise. You just need to make sure that your seller or your buyer are fully aware about the compensation being offered. And that they're good with that. And you've explained to them how it's used. I think
I mean,
a lot of the whole problem was, and how it started was, lazy agents that really did not explain what this was all about.
Mhm.
They jammed all the package together and said, sign here, sign here, sign here, sign here, done. Rather than having the ability and going through the contract and explaining. Even if you don't go through every paragraph, you highlight every paragraph. This means this, this means this, this means that. If they need more detail, then you should be able to go through all that detail with them.
Mhm.
If you can, get studying. You should know the tools of your trade and what they say. So I think that's a whole lot of how the problem started out is people go, what? I did what? Why did I do that? I don't understand. I mean, today I still hear buyers will call and say, I didn't know I signed that for them.
Because
Shame on somebody. Shame on somebody. You know what I mean? Yes, Rob.
Any update, thoughts, or good ideas from anybody on how we're gonna help buyers that don't have money to pay us?
We're going to ask this, well, you're going to use the compensation agreement rider. This, we didn't do what I'm talking about this one. Okay. The compensation agreement rider is required on all contracts. All of them. Every single contract will have this. And you'll either be marking A1 or A2 or both. So, let's say you call Century 21, I want to show 123 Main Street. Are you offering a buyer compensation? Nope, we're not. Okay. We're going back to our Mr. Buyer and say, hey, Mr. Buyer, we have an agreement here that says X amount is being paid to me. If you find something you like, 123 Main Street, the seller is not offering any compensation. It's entirely up to you. Would you like to go ahead and see it? If you like it and want to make an offer, here's the options. We can ask the seller to pay me, or you're going to be responsible to pay. What would you like to do? Mr. Buyer says, hey, I'm good with that. I really want to see that property, and let's ask the seller. If we decide to make an offer, let's ask the seller if they'll cover that. So that's your option. Then you'll do 1, 2, 1 or A2. And now the seller doesn't have to agree, but then if he changes this part of the contract, we go back to negotiate. So then maybe the buyer can't have it problem. And again, it's the way you talk to your sellers and how you present all this is going to be key in this whole thing.
There was some talk about financing changing where that commission may be able to be a seller concession.
And it says right in the contract, it can be a seller's concession. But here's how concessions work. And I've talked to 2 or 3 different lenders, and they've told me it's a waterfall. Or you can call it trickle down, whatever you want to call it. A, those funds, those concession funds are going to go towards loan costs, points, broker fees, whatever, low costs. Then it's going to go towards their inspection costs. Then it's going to go towards their insurance. Then it's going to go towards closing fees. Then it's going to go to blah, blah, blah. Well, down here way on the bottom in part Z is other. Buyer broker compensation is Z, other. So if there's any money left at A through Y, X, Y, Z. A through Y, if there's any money left, it'll go to Z. If there's no money left, it'll matter. We don't get it.
There's a limitation on that too, percentage. Like,
Well,
Yeah.
let's see, I'm wondering if they were changing that,
yeah,
you know, where that was
higher
higher.
and higher.
Now, PA has put a temporary hold on, I think the amount or what it can go for. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are looking at that, the cap. But I haven't heard that they've decided anything yet. And it's really not their responsibility. But we have to think of ways to be able to get buyers their properties without them having to come up with more money yet. Besides stuff, you know. So right now,
Well, we had a good way. We had a good
we did have a good way. And it worked for over 100 and some years. But again, I don't think things were explained efficiently and thoroughly.
I was just making sure because I can't see it. It's wonky, so I just wanted to make sure.
Anybody else?
So let me ask you this, like, what Rob's talking about here? I know it's like a USDA loan or something where they're putting 0 down. They have a buyer's agency with that buyer. You go and look at the house, even though you know that the seller is now saying, in this situation I'm talking about, the seller says, I'm not paying any commission. So we go and look at the house and we go back to this compensation agreement with that, and they turn it down. that buyer is us also tied to us because of the buyer's agency. So they're actually kind of limited. They can't basically get that house unless we release them from the buyer's agency, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no matter who they work with is gonna get paid. It's not like anybody's gonna work with that buyer for free.
Right.
So
if
it
it's the
doesn't
listing
matter. They
broker,
won't get that house no matter who they work with.
except they could go back to the listing.
Okay, as a listing agent, here, let's talk about you being a listing agent and getting that buyer call.
Mhm.
And that buyer can't afford to pay me.
Mhm.
And your seller says, I'm not paying
Yeah.
a buyer brokerage agreement. Are you gonna do that for free? Are you gonna work for that with that buyer for free? Okay,
There will be agents that way on that.
huh?
We know there'll be some shade. That way on.
Well,
They're
you
getting
know,
paid on the listing.
unfortunately, we can't control the whole industry, but people that are working for free. Okay, so you work with that buyer for free on your listing. They go tell their friends, man, Gary did a really great job. I really like Gary. He was really thorough and he doesn't charge you anything. So the next buyer comes to you and say, hey, Gary, I know we don't have to have an agreement with any amount in it. I know you worked with John, Cooper here for nothing. So I'd like you to represent me and do the same thing. Oh, what a can of worms. Yeah. Even if they come to you as a listing agent, there will be no freebies.
Doesn't the buyer can go back to the listing agent and the listing agent's getting paid. And
Whatever that agreement is,
whatever the agreement
we
is.
don't know what that is.
Yeah. But they could buy it through the listing agent if they were released from the buyer's
Again.
agency.
You as a listing agent or me as a listing agent, am I going to do the work on behalf of that buyer for free?
Why are you?
I'm not.
Yeah. Why are you saying free though? The seller was
Buyer's not paying me. I'm only getting the listing side of that commission.
right.
I'm not getting the buyer side of that commission. I'm not gonna work with buyers for free.
That will work for just the listing percentage.
Yeah.
Would you do that? Is that what
Yeah,
that's
so
what it's
you're actually gonna work with the buyer for free.
with the listing commission.
Right, just the listing commission. The buyer side is gonna be free.
That will work.
So let's talk about that. Now you have a buyer agreement with zero. Anything they look at is gonna be zero. Let's say they come to you for your listing and it's not gonna work out. You have a buyer agreement. They said, I'm only interested in your listing. That's the only one I wanna work on. But I can't afford to pay you. So you do a buyer's agency agreement or a buyer agreement, doesn't have to be an agency. And it's zero. And they look at the house and, oh gosh, this really isn't just right. Well, can you show me this one? Well, sure, you can show them that one. You have a signed agreement, but you're working for free. Zero.
But
Not
didn't
good
we talk
practice.
about the other houses with a different brokerage? We have to have a whole new buyer's agreement for that house, right?
If you've limited your buyer's agreement to a house, an address, but sometimes you don't normally do that. If you've limited to just an address, then yes, you will need a new buyer's agreement. If you've just got a buyer's agreement and say it's for a week or 48 hours, whatever. And they go, well, no, we didn't quite check all our boxes, but this one down the street looks perfect. Can you show me that one? And you're agreeing to do it for zero.
And let's be.
I have all kinds of concerns. I mean, a lot of rules must change for this to work. If you sign a buyer's agency agreement with someone,
Well, if we used to call it a buyer's agreement, because you don't always have to create agency. You do not have to be a representative of that buyer. It can be non-exclusive. It can be a transaction brokerage agreement where you're just representing the transaction or
Okay.
facilitating the transaction.
well, my
So buyer agreement.
okay, so it would be better not to have a buyer's agency agreement with anyone that can't pay you, because the homes they can afford are going to be the cheap homes in the market, and that seller doesn't have any money. most likely, and they're less likely to pay you. And so you're out showing a buyer homes they can't buy. And actually, they're not qualified. Shouldn't even be showing them
And,
that.
and that's number one. As always, when you work with a buyer, one of the first things we talk about, or I talk about, do you have it pre-approval or you pay in cash? I will need something, either one of those.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah.
But if they can't pay you commission,
Right.
you're hoping that the seller will pay you by filling out that agreement. And the 3 homes that they can afford, none of those will do that.
Yeah.
So
And again, it's going to be very, very important how you're listing those homes. Let's face it, without the buyer, there's no money. There's no money for the seller. There's no money for the agents. There's no money. If the buyer's not bringing it all to the table, there is no money. There's no sale. So that's Mr. Seller. Again, that goes back to how we educate our sellers and what their options are if they are not offering that compensation, especially on a more affordable property that can go USDA or Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, something like that. They're really at a disadvantage because that buyer cannot afford it.
And you want to have the full question with them.
Yeah, you always want to be one.
This amount of people coming to look at your house.
yeah, I understand.
Do you
But
want,
I'm looking at it from the buyer side. You guys keep going back to the listing side.
right.
Well,
Right.
and I-
I
but
think
it's all,
Listing side is easy.
it's
the
all
buyer side.
intertwined. It's all intertwined. And that's
But
what
I'm also hoping that the majority of the listing agents are gonna figure it out. And they're gonna offer compensation.
Yeah.
You're gonna come across a couple of them.
And that's the
that are
kind of conversations you're gonna have with buyers, especially ones that really want to buy a house, but again, can't afford the commission. Then that's gonna be conversations you're gonna have with them. Listen, I'll try really hard to find you something, but it's all gonna depend on if that particular seller is offering a buyer and a candidate for the agent, whichever, is offering a buyer and house. And they're gonna be hard conversations to have with some people. But it's a
Well,
reality.
I'm thinking the buyer's agency agreement is not a good idea because you can be stuck with that.
Yes, you have to have it. To open the door, you gotta have it.
You just told me it could be a transaction.
Oh, yeah, a buyer agreement.
Yeah.
But it's still gonna set out a compensation, you're not gonna do it for zero.
Yeah, but you're not committed. to
Okay,
it.
I see what you mean, as far as an
Right.
agency,
You show them the 2 houses that
Create
qualified for it,
agency,
didn't
yes,
work, you're
yes.
done.
yes, yes.
Goes back to what you said from the very beginning. This is affecting the buyers so adversely.
Yes,
It's not fair to them.
Oh, no, it's not. But, you know, we have to, try to represent them in the best way that we can. And, I'm not sure I should video this, but, I'll record this. My gut tells me that you are going to have buyers who are going to say, I don't want to see a property that's not offering compensation. Okay, so,
and that's up to them. They
Yeah.
can choose to do
It
that.
is.
You can't choose to not show it to them,
Well,
but they
say-
can choose to say, I'm not going to look at it.
Save your time. That's just a phone call
yes,
versus
yeah,
trying to make something work.
right.
I think a year from now, this is going to get changed because someone's going to figure out the buyers are all men.
Oh, well, I think, did I hear that the buyers are now going to sue sellers? Because they were actually paying for all of it anyway. I don't remember. I hear so many things. It's best not to pay any attention until it comes true.
So, but to me, it's kind of, you're gonna have one extra phone call or one extra lookup. depending on your buyer's situation as to whether, you know, is this property providing compensation or not?
Yeah.
And yes,
Well, you're gonna
you
have a phone call anyway.
yeah, you're gonna, well, you know, if it's on a website, then
Right,
you can
they
go find
don't
it.
have to, but.
But you're gonna have to have the conversation of, you know, here's what I'm gonna get paid. And there may be properties out there that are not offering compensation. And you're gonna have to be able to pay me if they're not offering compensation. And that right there is probably going to open up a conversation of, well, I don't want to see properties that aren't offering compensation. So, you know,
Is Springfield starting in 2019?
Yeah.
So,
SOMO, it's a SOMO thing. We're all started at,
This should be interesting.
yeah, we're all started at the same time. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
and I think the DOJ is watching.
Oh, very
They are
closely.
watching to see how this all takes out.
The DOJ will have we'll find out what they want probably within a year. Because they're the ones that were all for the transparency. That's why we were publishing the BAC everywhere.
Yeah.
Websites everywhere. We were publishing that through the MLS. That was the agreement with the DOJ, the transparency of it. Well, this has now put us back in the woods.
Yeah.
It's taking us back. When I first started in real estate, there was no such thing as buyer's agency. There was seller's agency and sub-agency. That's it. We all knew the money came from the sub. Didn't matter who you were working with. You always worked for the seller.
Mhm.
We had a one-page contract with a carbon copy.
Hmm.
Some of you probably don't even know what a carbon copy is. Yeah. Fill it out on the hood of a car in 4 minutes. Easy. Yeah. Look at where we call it.
And now we're at 8 pages.
Yeah. I'm not even gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it.
So,
Huh?
so
They all thought it and I've said it, so you might as
Well,
well say
I
it.
could also see the return of some agency. Which is a scary thing. We won't offer it, but I can see some do. Some will. Yeah. Yes.
Are you, is someone gonna prepare a new cover sheet? With
Yes, I'm
everything?
gonna get to it. Yes, all I really have to add is the cooperation agreement between brokers. Like I said, not the cooperation, the compensation agreement riders, the sale side. Not gonna, at this point in time, require the cooperation agreement, but like I say, we start having problems down the line. A lot of agents are having problems getting closer to closing. Well, no, I didn't mean to tell you that much. I meant to tell you this much. Then we're going to have it all the time. We'll see. We'll see. A lot of this is going to be tests. See how it works out. I forwarded my phone to the legal line. So when they answer and say leave a message, you should I'll leave one.
I'm thinking about taking a vacation for a month.
That's what I was saying.
Let everything kind of work out.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe by the time I get back to lunch, it'll all be good.
I'm hoping if we go in and add that, link to our website, that a lot of the agencies around here will follow suit and do the same. So it will make life a lot easier on everybody. So you guys, as listing agents, will be receiving, a boatload of calls. Your voicemail's going to go 123 Main Street offers 3%. 456 Main Street offers 4%.
That's a good problem, though. That means we got listings. Listings is key.
It is.
Well, that's what one of the agents, they're going to put compensation on their personal website. And, their phone message is going to say, if you're calling about one of my listings and co-op compensation, please go to blah, blah, blah. Everything is listed there.
Which is something you guys may want to do. You know, we'll put it in there. But you also have to let us know what the compensation is. You know, and if you need, I can go in and sort the download by agent. So if you want to post something on your own website, let me know. You'll have to maintain it once it gets started.
If you're using it on your own.
Yeah.
More questions?
I'm guessing with everything going on that holding a house open, what we can say is now very limited.
When you have an open house, you are there representing the seller. So yes, you can still have an open house. You can still hand out information on that house. Now, if from that open house, the buyer said, hey, I would like to get with you and I would like to make an offer on this house. Then you're going to have a conversation about agency, their choices of agency, and our brokerages, how we handle buyers agents or buyer agreements.
Could that not be a schedule appointment after the open?
Have to do what?
Schedule an appointment with them so that we can discuss those things. And
Yes,
yeah.
yes. The best place would not necessarily be at that open house. But if that's the way it works out, I'm in my car, I carry the broker disclosure, agency disclosure from Missouri and Arkansas. I am now in the process of filling out, except for name and amount, all the buyer's agency, all the different types of buyer's agency. And I will carry 5 copies of each one in my car at all times. You never know. I may not have time to get back to the office and do it all online. So if I don't, I'm ready. And I have heard that the plaintiffs of the lawsuit will be testing. So they'll be calling agents. Will it be agents here? I don't know what it'll be. But they'll be calling agents to test and make sure agents are doing what they're supposed to be doing as far as disclosures. Huh?
Back to the open house. Eventually buyers will get savvy. And so they come to my open house and I'm representing the seller and they ask me, is your seller paying buyers commissions, buyers agency commission? And I tell them or not.
I say yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't get real wordy, but I'd say, well, yes, my seller is operating a buyer broker compensation.
Well, it wouldn't be any different than having it on the sign.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I would tell them, but I wouldn't tell them, yeah, they're offering 10%. I wouldn't do that. I would just say, yeah, but yes, the seller is offering a buyer agent compensation. Any other questions? No, I did block out till noon for all this.
I have something wrong.
Huh?
Oh, Gary's done.
I am. Thank
I
you.
have closings at 11.
There you go.
I'll have more questions when I actually go to fill this out the first time.
That's true.
That's when you're in trouble. That's when everything's.
That's what I'm wishing for about Sunday.
So you're not. Don't you leave me with all this. What?
No, you're not.
No, you're not. We'll have a conversation about that when we're done. Yeah. You've lost your mind.
Well,
Thank you, Debbie.
I did that a long time ago. You're welcome.
Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
Taking care of the problem, dog.
Everybody online says thank you.
And everybody's done, I guess.